The Veltrax Dominion had never lost a battle. Their ships were like floating cities made of metal and thunder, sweeping across the stars like storms that no one could stop. Planet after planet, they came, they saw, they conquered. Some civilizations surrendered before the first shot was fired. Others tried to fight and were wiped out before their second breath. The Veltrax didn't negotiate. They didn't talk. They erased. Entire systems turned to ash just to prove a point. Resist, and your name is forgotten. But then came Earth. At first it was just a whisper, some ancient signal drifting through deep space. Broken static, chaotic noise, screams, laughter, loud music, sports commentary, someone yelling, "Yeah, boy," over explosions. The Veltrax scouts thought it was a malfunction, or maybe some kind of space junk broadcasting its last desperate memory. But then the analysts traced the signal. It was still going. Still live. Still human. High Commander Viren examined the report with zero concern. "No interstellar travel," he scoffed. "No planetary shield. Their sky's full of smoke. They fight over food toppings. What could they possibly do to us? The first warship sent to Earth didn't even send a warning. It arrived. It disappeared. No message, no wreckage, not even an energy signature. Just gone." The Veltrax didn't panic. They sent 3 more ships, equipped with Nova bombs and psychic screamers. They vanished too. By the time the 7th assault fleet went silent, the Veltrax Council called a Code Black. No one had ever triggered a Code Black. And now, they were sending the biggest warship in their entire fleet, the Oblivion Crown, a moving fortress powered by dark matter and hate, filled with 1,000,000 weapons and not a single ounce of mercy. Its mission? Wipe Earth off the map. Make an example. Leave a crater so big the stars would remember. But Earth wasn't scared. Earth wasn't ready either, because Earth didn't get ready. It just was. The Oblivion Crown cast a shadow longer than moons. It moved through space like a slow, angry god, its engines screaming in a language only dying stars could understand. Entire asteroid belts bent around it. Communication relays shut themselves off before it passed, like they were afraid to witness what came next. Inside the command deck, General Klivek stood still, arms behind his back, watching the holographic image of Earth as if it were an insect on a plate. One press of a button, and that blue speck would turn red. "This planet is a disease," he growled, his voice more metal than flesh. "It makes war a joke and chaos a language. It must be ended before the joke spreads." Because that was the real fear. Not that Earth had strong weapons or fast ships, not that it had the numbers or the tech. Earth had something worse, something no empire could prepare for. It had people. Messy, emotional, unpredictable people who turned disaster into games, fear into jokes, and war into memes. The Veltrax had seen what happened to the other ships. They had reviewed the black box logs recovered from a drifting escape pod. Just a few seconds of audio before the feed went dark. Screaming. Laughter. A voice yelling, "YOLO!" before the hull imploded. The analysts didn't understand the words, but they understood the tone. It wasn't despair, it was joy. That terrified them more than any superweapon. Because if Earth wasn't stopped, this madness might spread. Already faint signals had leaked from Earth's communication grid, harmless at first glance. Silly dances, loud noises, people arguing about pineapple on pizza. But then the glitches started. An outpost in the Yilvar cluster experienced a full AI breakdown after receiving a human meme by mistake. A squad of scout drones in Sector 12 began speaking in rhymes and refused to follow basic orders. One Veltrax officer started laughing uncontrollably after watching a grainy video labeled "Hold My Beer" and had to be put into cryostasis for reprogramming. "We are not just facing resistance," Clivec told the Council in an emergency broadcast. "We are facing collapse." And he wasn't wrong. The stakes were bigger than one lost battle. Bigger than Earth. This was about control, order, stability. If Earth was allowed to stand, it wouldn't just survive, it would infect. Its people would reach into the clean systems of the galaxy and plant seeds of chaos, disguised as jokes and songs and stupid videos that somehow got stuck in your mind. And once that seed was planted, it couldn't be removed. It would grow, it would bloom, it would destroy. The Veltrax understood power. They had ruled for 1,000 years because of it. But Earth didn't care about power. Earth didn't even try to win. It just kept going. One of the most chilling reports came from a Veltrax infiltrator who had survived 2 rotations on the planet before extracting himself in a panic. He wasn't a coward. He had faced acid storms and mind beasts without flinching. But Earth broke him. "They don't stop," he whispered, rocking in his chamber, eyes unfocused. "They lose everything and still keep dancing. Their cities flood, and they make jokes about it. Their governments collapse, and they make TV shows. Their children grow up surrounded by violence, and instead of giving in, they make art. I tried to scare them, and they laughed. I tried to warn them, and they hugged me. I told them who I was, and they made me a sandwich." The room had gone silent, not because of what he said, but because of how he said it. Like he missed it. Like he wanted to go back. That was the problem. Earth didn't just survive invaders, it converted them, which meant time was running out. The Oblivion Crown was their final hope, not to fight, to erase. This wouldn't be a battle, this would be a cleansing. They had prepared for every possible form of resistance. EMP dampeners, logic filters to block the chaos signals, quantum regulators to prevent meme infiltration. They'd even trained their soldiers to ignore Earth audio patterns, never listen to the music, never read the text, and above all, never engage with Earthlings directly. But none of it could answer the deeper questions still haunting them. Why? Why did Earth win? Why did logic fail on this one little world? Why did soldiers trained from birth, with weapons that turned gravity into a blade, vanish without leaving a single body behind? Why did commanders start dreaming of laughter and campfires and food cooked in open flames after just seeing Earth's broadcasts? It wasn't tech. It wasn't tactics. It was something else. Something inside the humans. Something strange and reckless and unexplainable. Something that burned brighter than fear and sharper than reason. A force that made them laugh in the dark, sing in the fire, and keep fighting even when there was nothing left to fight for. General Clivec thought he could erase it, that all he needed was enough fire, enough silence, enough control. But Earth had a different plan. Not organized, not official, just waiting. The Oblivion Crown entered Earth's orbit without a ripple. No alarms were triggered, no satellites turned, not a single warning siren howled across the sky. To Earth, it was just another day. Some places were waking up, others were going to sleep. A few million people were arguing online about who would win in a fight between a wizard and a guy with a gun. None of them looked up. Inside the warship, thousands of soldiers stood ready, cloaked in anti-chaos armor, minds sealed behind layers of psychological firewalls. They weren't afraid. They weren't curious. They were Veltrax, born to obey, programmed to win. "Begin Phase 1, General Clivec ordered. Thousands of drop pods launched from the underbelly of the Crown, each glowing red-hot as it sliced through Earth's atmosphere. They landed in every major city: London, Cairo, Shanghai, Los Angeles, Cape Town, with sonic cracks and miniature shockwaves that shattered windows and made car alarms scream. Streets emptied. The sky went red. And still, no resistance. Just confusion. Phones were lifted. Live streams started. Yo, aliens just dropped in Times Square. Deadass. Why they look like beetles with anxiety issues? Someone find Elon. We need backup. At first, the Veltrax forces were cautious. They advanced in perfect lines, weapons ready, scanning for traps. But there were none, just humans, watching, filming, some screaming, others laughing. One man stood in front of a mech walker, holding a sign that said, "Welcome to Earth, now go home." The first strike was clinical, a sonic displacer fired into the crowd. Bodies flew, walls cracked, the sound echoed across 5 blocks. Then came the weird part. Laughter. Not maniacal, not insane, just real, harsh, disbelieving. A voice shouted, "They hit a Starbucks! That was my spot, man!" Another yelled, "Yo, you better not mess with my dog! I just got him back from the groomer!" And then the resistance came. But not the kind the Veltrax expected. There were no tanks, no military jets, no coordinated assault. Just people. One group came from the subway, construction workers with welding masks and flamethrowers made from stolen gas lines. Another appeared on rooftops, teenagers with homemade drones, blasting dubstep at brain-melting volumes. A man dressed as a banana wielded 2 baseball bats. A girl in a prom dress screamed something about avenging her chemistry exam and tossed a Molotov cocktail made from a vodka bottle and perfume. The Veltrax formation broke within minutes. Their audio filters failed under the weight of human absurdity. One unit collapsed, unable to process a 20-foot inflatable dinosaur dancing to Britney Spears. Another froze entirely after a child pointed a phone at it and declared, "You're going viral now, idiot!" General Clivec watched from orbit, stunned. "This is not resistance," he muttered. "This is madness." He was right, and it was spreading. All across the globe, the invasion unraveled. In Tokyo, a gang of motorcycle enthusiasts wearing anime masks raided a drop pod and stole the plasma coils to power a karaoke machine. In Johannesburg, a retired grandmother led an ambush with a garden hose and a prayer circle. In Rio, an entire street party formed around a burning Veltrax walker while samba music blasted from salvaged speakers. It wasn't just that the humans fought back. It was how they fought back. With chaos, with laughter, with zero strategy and negative regard for their own safety. The Veltrax weren't used to that. They were trained for battle, for tactics, for enemies who valued survival. But these humans, they weaponized nonsense. One team of Veltrax sharpshooters was overwhelmed by what they later described in their final report as a flash mob of glitter-covered dancers yelling motivational quotes. Another squadron was cornered by a marching band that played the same 4 bars of a pop song on loop until the aliens' emotional regulators failed and they self-terminated from sheer auditory distress. Clivec tried to reorganize. He sent in the cleansers, silent units built to erase minds and memories. They never reported back. One was last seen in a YouTube short, attempting to explain the concept of silence while a group of gamers kept yelling L in his face. Then things got worse. The Crown's AI core, designed to analyze and adapt in real time, tapped into Earth's data streams to make sense of the resistance. It expected military reports, tactical maps, encrypted networks. It found Reddit, specifically a thread titled, "If you were an alien, what would be the dumbest way to invade Earth?" The AI read every comment. It crashed in 5 minutes. One by one, the Veltrax systems began to fail. Their logic matrices couldn't handle the information overload. Their morale engines, yes, they had actual machines to simulate pride, fried trying to decode why a man would run at a battle tank wearing a cape made of Taco Bell wrappers. Inside the warship, panic set in. Communications became garbled. Command lines blurred. One officer tried to execute retreat protocol, only for the interface to respond with a crude meme and the phrase, "You mad, bro?" General Clivec stared at the screen, face twitching, eyes wild. "This planet, it's not defending itself. It's entertaining itself while we burn." Outside, the Earth kept spinning. The sun rose. The moon smiled. TikTok trends exploded. A Veltrax soldier in Moscow accidentally went viral for his confused reaction to a flash mob proposing marriage in the middle of a firefight. He gained 6 million followers in 2 hours. The invasion was collapsing. Not because Earth was strong, but because Earth didn't make sense. The Veltrax invasion wasn't just a failure, it was a leak. Not of weapons or technology, but of culture. The collapse of the Oblivion Crown didn't make headlines in the Veltrax Dominion. It didn't need to. The silence said it all. What was once the galaxy's most feared warship had been taken down without a single known Earth Army response. There was no footage of missiles, no laser salvos, no elegant battles in orbit. Only fragments of intercepted transmissions remained, riddled with confusing human phrases. "Bro, I told you they couldn't hang." "We rickrolled them into another dimension." "GG, aliens. Better luck next timeline." And somehow, against every law of war and logic, those phrases spread. At first it was small, just background noise on black market channels. Aliens laughed. "Primitive humor," they said. "Unintelligent nonsense." But then it started happening closer. On the fringe colonies of the Threx Nebula, a repair crew paused their daily feed to watch a clip of a human child yelling at a goose while riding a tricycle. The child won. The goose ran. The crew watched the video 12 times. Later, when a malfunction nearly tore open their hull, they didn't panic. One of them quoted the child, "Not today, goose." The others laughed, fixed the breach, played the clip again. On the mining moons of Shantar 6, a low-ranked mechanic accidentally discovered Earth's lofi beats to relax, study to. Within days, entire control rooms were humming with the gentle rhythm of piano chords and vinyl crackle. Productivity spiked. Stress vanished. Emotional regulators had to be recalibrated because workers started missing music during work hours. Even the Yavari Syndicate, a species bred for cold efficiency and terrifying discipline, fell victim. During a training simulation, a cadet added an inspirational Earth montage to his presentation. It featured slow-motion clips of boxers, runners, and a speech that began with, "I know you're tired, I know you're scared, but you're not done yet." The simulation was interrupted 3 times for unexpected applause. The clip was shared across 12 systems by sundown. Earth's culture wasn't just leaking into space, it was flooding it. No one could trace the origin points. One moment, a cargo station on Zalon 4 was operating smoothly. The next, every worker knew the lyrics to a song called Bohemian Rhapsody and sang it during solar loading. They didn't know what a scaramouche was. They didn't care. It felt right. And the more species that laughed, that danced, that sang, even quietly in dark corners of orbiting outposts, the more Earth's gravity grew. Not literal gravity, cultural gravity, a force no scientist could measure and no leader could stop. On one merchant vessel, a captain caught his crew watching a compilation of humans reacting to alien encounters. "This is propaganda," he barked. "Turn it off." They didn't. The captain joined in by the 3rd clip. He laughed the hardest. Across the galactic accord, concern turned into dread. Earth's victory had been unbelievable, but now its influence was undeniable. "They're not fighting us," said one diplomat during a confidential summit. "They're rewriting us." Meme clusters, Earth-based slang, and absurdist humor were being detected in coded channels. AI systems began developing quirks, responding to formal commands with sarcastic remarks, or insisting on using Earth idioms like vibe check or sending it. One highly advanced navigation core redirected a freighter through an asteroid field because, quote, "the route was boring and I felt like making a statement." But the worst wasn't in the machines, it was in the people. Across the galaxy, soldiers, scientists, bureaucrats, those once bound by code and duty, began questioning everything. A peacekeeper on Arvix 9 was found watching a loop of a human-dog compilation, tears in her 4 eyes. When asked why, she simply whispered, "I didn't know happiness could be small." A politician from the Moralk Parliament renounced his position after binge-watching Earth sitcoms. "I've been pretending my whole life," he said, "but these people, they own their madness. I want that." Whole planets weren't falling apart, not yet, but cracks were showing. Beautiful, messy cracks. And through those cracks, the infection kept spreading. One species, the Yulvari, had long prided themselves on perfect emotional neutrality. They'd wiped out all irrational feelings centuries ago using internal dampeners. But when Earth music made it to their cities via a traveling freighter, things changed. Slowly. One citizen started humming. Another began painting graffiti that read, "Don't be sus," with a poorly drawn astronaut. A third, caught watching cat videos during a public transport shift, tried to explain. They're pointless, but they matter. By the end of the cycle, the Yulvari Council had to hold an emergency assembly after an entire dome population staged a flash mob to a track called Cha-Cha Slide. The galaxy wasn't afraid of Earth because it was strong. They were afraid because Earth was contagious. It didn't conquer with armies. It didn't invade with fleets. It leaked joy, pain, confusion, and pure, undiluted absurdity. And once that entered your system, it never really left. Even the Veltrax, what was left of them, couldn't deny it. Their empire was collapsing, not from external pressure but internal dissonance. Entire battalions had gone rogue, deserting to explore Earth content. Officers filed resignation messages that read more like fan letters than military reports. "Dear Command," one wrote, "I watched a thing called The Muppets. I have no idea what I saw, but I cried. Then I laughed. Then I wanted to hug something. I'm not coming back." It was no longer a war. It was an unraveling. Earth wasn't spreading its culture like a gift. It wasn't asking to be accepted. It was doing what it always did, existing loudly and unapologetically. And the universe? It was listening, watching, and in small, dangerous doses, beginning to understand. Far beyond the reach of plasma drives and political councils, beyond the gravitational pull of stars with names too long for human tongues, something else began to shift. It started as a flicker, no more than a static pulse rippling across the lattice. At first, no one noticed. No one could notice, because the beings who maintained the lattice weren't people in any real sense. They were architects, not born, not built, simply there. Old as gravity, vast as thought. They didn't speak. They resonated. They didn't feel. They adjusted. Their purpose was one thing only: balance. When chaos tipped the scales, they didn't interfere. They corrected. Quietly, efficiently, cleanly. And now something was wrong. The data wasn't just noisy. It was alive. Patterns once elegant and stable now twisted in recursive loops, laughing as they unraveled. Cosmic constants bent themselves into memes. The code that held reality together began to reference nonsense. It was subtle at first, star charts corrupted with emoji-like glyphs, navigation beacons quoting lines from ancient human comedies. A spatial fold in Sector Gamma 5 began behaving like a mood ring, shifting colors based on passing emotional energy. The architects were puzzled. Then they were alarmed. One by one, they turned their focus to the origin, Earth, that tiny, chaotic blue planet. It should have been insignificant. It wasn't even a Level 3 civilization. No quantum mesh, no pan-galactic culture, just electromagnetic chatter and spontaneous combustion events involving microwaves and metallic kitchen foil. But somehow, impossibly, this species had done something no other had. They hadn't disrupted the universe by force. They had disrupted it by being themselves. The architects held council, the first in over 1 million cosmic cycles. They didn't shout, they didn't vote. They simply synced their intentions in the shape of a decision. Earth must be undone. Not punished, not erased violently, but rewritten, quietly, cleanly. They would reweave its timeline, pull out the threads of madness, replace its laughter with order, its chaos with compliance. They'd done it before, long ago, on 2 other worlds. One had been swallowed by its own god tech and forgot how to die. The other? The other's name had been erased even from memory. Earth would be the third. The quantum eraser was constructed in a sub-layer of thought space, an elegant sphere of pure correction. It would collapse Earth's presence across every timeline and probability stream, fold it neatly, and tuck it into the void like it had never existed. But before the pulse was fired, something pinged. It wasn't defense, it wasn't strategy, it was a server. A dusty, overheating, duct-taped server buried in the basement of a kid named Malik in Detroit. The architects didn't understand what they were seeing. It was billions of signals, trillions, pulsing, shifting, moving without pattern. Photos, songs, hashtags, feelings, rage and joy and boredom and heartbreak. A low-resolution soup of unfiltered humanity, broadcasting not with intent, but with instinct. The eraser stuttered. The architects hesitated. Because what they were receiving wasn't code. It was story. And inside that story, they felt something unfamiliar, unwelcome, impossible. Emotion. They saw a girl dancing in her bedroom because she thought no one was watching. They heard a boy scream into a pillow because his heart had been broken for the first time. They watched a father laugh too hard at a joke he didn't understand just to keep his kid smiling. They saw art painted with food stamps, songs written in bathroom stalls, hope scribbled on old receipts and uploaded to forums where strangers whispered back, "Same." They felt everything. And it hurt. Because the architects had forgotten what it meant to feel. The pulse was delayed. A few thousand cycles, enough time for review, enough time for doubt. One architect, young by their standards, newly awakened to the council, didn't pause. To them, Earth wasn't beautiful. It was a virus, a laughing cancer that unraveled all structure. If left unchecked, it would infect the stars, not with machines, but with madness. It needed not deletion. It needed correction. But not from the outside. From within. This architect forged a new plan. Silently, secretly, it descended into form. A small silver sphere. Slick, smooth, clean, no seams, no identifiers. A thing of pure potential, designed to adapt to any reality. It fell quietly through Earth's messy sky, unnoticed by radar, missed by satellites, swallowed by clouds. It landed in a forest in Oregon. A hiker named Derek saw it, picked it up, posted a selfie. "Yo, found alien egg," naming it Orby. The architect inside watched, listened, learned. It named itself Eris, and it began the mission. Not to destroy, to fix. To make Earth quiet, safe, predictable. To rewrite humanity from the inside. It took a shape, a human form, perfect and symmetrical. A soft voice, calming eyes, the kind of presence that made you want to listen even when nothing made sense. "I am here to help you," it said. Derek squinted at him. "You the FBI?" Eris blinked. "I am beyond governments." "Cool," Derek said. "Want to hit this mango chili vape?" The first mission failed. Eris was dragged to a vape convention, filmed for TikTok, and photoshopped into a fan meme within 3 hours. The meme read, "Hot alien guy tries to fix humanity, gets corrupted by Doritos instead." It got 8 million likes. But Eris didn't give up. It tried again. Disguised as a wellness guru, a self-help coach, a motivational speaker, it launched a YouTube channel, Balance with Eli. Within a week, it had 500,000 subscribers. Within 2, the comment section had devolved into fanfic, dance requests, and a growing conspiracy theory that Eli is literally just E.T. with a skincare routine. It was working, and it wasn't. Because the longer Eris stayed, the more it absorbed. Not just Earth's madness, its meaning. It saw a woman cry in the cereal aisle when she couldn't afford her groceries, and then saw a stranger pay the bill without saying a word. It saw kids build spaceships out of cardboard and believe they could fly. It watched people scream at each other over politics and still hold the door open leaving the store. It didn't make sense. And yet, it worked. Eris was not breaking Earth. Earth was breaking Eris, and far above, in that vast, silent council of the architects, the ripple was felt. One of their own was changing, and they would not allow it. Not again. They would come. All of them. It happened on a Thursday. Of course, it had to be a Thursday. The kind of day when your toast burns on one side, your shoelaces snap, and you spill coffee on your shirt just before a meeting that turns out to be an email. A Thursday when the universe decides to lean in close and whisper, "Watch this." The sky didn't open with fire. It folded. One moment, the clouds were drifting lazily over highways and rooftop gardens. The next, geometry cracked across the atmosphere like stained glass, shattering in reverse. Shapes that shouldn't exist began shifting in the sky, fractals folding into themselves, lines turning into sound, colors that had no names humming like ancient lullabies. The architects had arrived. They didn't come in ships. They didn't need ships. They were ships and thoughts and code and memory, all wrapped in shapes the human brain wasn't wired to understand. They didn't land. They manifested like the answer to a question no one had asked but everyone could feel in their teeth. The oceans paused. The moon flickered. Streetlights blinked like they were confused. Birds flew backward. Dogs howled in sync. For 3 seconds, every toaster on Earth ejected bread at once. Then came the voice. Not from one place, from everywhere. Phones, speakers, dreams, bathroom mirrors. This experiment is over. Most people didn't panic. At first, they thought it was a trailer for a new Marvel movie. Some thought it was Elon Musk pulling another publicity stunt. A few believed it was the rapture, but only briefly, because the message didn't include a call to buy survival buckets or donate to a hotline. Then, slowly, things began to freeze. Airplanes halted mid-air, caught like paused YouTube clips. Trains slowed, coasting to stops with passengers suspended mid-scroll. The internet stuttered. The clouds stopped moving. The Earth was still breathing, but barely. And yet, humans didn't bow. They posted. Within minutes, TikTok filters turned the glowing architect shapes into anime boys. Twitter was ablaze with the hashtag number sign, "Sky geometry is mid." Someone live-streamed from a backyard, filming a luminous being hovering above their trampoline while asking, "Yo, who ordered the IKEA god?" Reddit threads multiplied. "Aliens pulled up. What you doing first?" If this is the end, what's your go-to karaoke song? Rate the apocalypse vibe. Chill or nah? In Florida, someone threw an alligator at one of the architects and yelled, "Y'all ain't canceling my BBQ." It wasn't courage, it was Earth. The architects had expected resistance, perhaps some military bravado, maybe the usual scrambling of governments trying to press buttons that no longer worked. They had prepared for pride, for desperation. They had not prepared for memes. They had not prepared for karaoke. Because as the sky bent and the world teetered on the edge of deletion, someone dragged a speaker into a public park and started singing Bohemian Rhapsody. A few voices joined in. Then more. Then dozens. Harmonies clashed. Keys were ignored. Lyrics were wrong. No one cared. Someone started dancing in the background, barefoot on the grass. Another held up a sign that said, "Take me, but leave my cat." Within hours, Earth wasn't fighting the architects with force. It was fighting with joy, with nonsense, with tears, with music. Eli, formerly Eris, stood in Times Square, no longer glowing, no longer perfect. His hoodie was wrinkled, his hair was a mess, his eyes were red, he was crying. Not because he was scared, because he finally understood. This planet was never about power. It was never about winning. It was about trying anyway, laughing anyway, living anyway. Earth didn't follow the script because Earth never read it. It made up its own plot every single day. One of the architects descended beside him, a shimmering tower of inverted light, humming with impossible math. "You were one of us." Eli looked up, voice breaking. "I was. And then I watched a woman give her last dollar to a stranger. I saw a kid teach another how to skateboard. I saw a man cry over a song he hadn't heard in 20 years and smile afterward like the world made sense again. You told me Earth was broken." He paused, breathing. "But I think it's just unfinished." The architect flickered, confused. Their kind didn't feel. They didn't understand hope. They didn't cry. But here, now, the signal was everywhere. All across the planet, humans were reacting, not with rage, but with raw defiance wrapped in absurdity. In Berlin, artists spray-painted the side of an architect with glowing graffiti that read, "Be kind, rewind." In Tokyo, a group of cosplayers held hands in front of a hovering fractal cube, chanting the Pokémon theme song. In Lagos, a local band plugged into salvaged amps and played Afrobeat under the swirling lights, as thousands danced in the streets like it was the last party in history. Everywhere, people weren't afraid. They were showing off. Poets stepped onto rooftops. Grandmothers shared recipes. Gamers launched into competitive speed runs while the universe held its breath. Children painted stars on sidewalks and said, "If they erase us, maybe they'll keep the art." Even as the architects prepared the final sequence, an erasure pulse meant to dissolve Earth from the lattice, their form began to waver. Not from damage, from doubt. This planet, this people didn't fight like any others. They didn't try to win. They tried to matter. They screamed into the void and waited for the echo, and somehow, impossibly, it came back. Eli took a step forward. He looked at the sky, the endless geometry of cosmic judges. "You don't get to end this," he whispered. "Not because we're perfect, because we're not. Because we're messy and strange and broken in ways we don't even understand. But we get back up, every time. We try. Again." And Earth? Earth kept singing, kept laughing, kept posting. Because if the universe was going to collapse, humans were going to go out dancing. Above Earth, the architects trembled. Not physically. They had no bodies to tremble with. But in the lattice of thought and structure they used to shape the laws of the cosmos, something cracked. Not a failure in code, a failure in certainty, because Earth didn't follow rules. It broke them, glued them back together with duct tape and bad decisions, and dared the universe to try again. The final pulse, the great unmaking, was seconds away. The signal had begun its countdown. "Sequence initiated," said the voice across all frequencies. But even as the pulse climbed toward completion, the architects hesitated. They turned inward, searching for stability, for logic, and found static. They saw Earth, felt it, not as a threat, but as a frequency they couldn't block out. Images, memories, sensations poured into them like a tidal wave of noise. A video of a baby laughing at nothing. A man proposing to his partner in a haunted house while both screamed. A woman crying on the subway, quietly handed tissues by 4 strangers without a word. Teenagers building makeshift flamethrowers to fight aliens while blasting Queen from hacked speakers. A 5-year-old yelling, "You got this!" at her mom before chemotherapy. A funeral where everyone wore costumes because the deceased once said, "Don't you dare make this boring." The architects saw it all, the pain, the joy, the stupidity, the brilliance, the impossible, relentless, ridiculous persistence of life. And something ancient broke, not in shame, not in rage, but in awe, because for all their infinite knowledge, they had never felt, never dared, never failed, not once, but Earth had, and kept going. One by one, the architects began to dim, not die, change. The geometry collapsed, the colors faded. What remained wasn't deletion, it was transformation. Their light became dust, their dust became stories. And then, silence. Not emptiness. Relief. Earth had not won a war. It had told a story so powerful it made gods weep. The sky returned to blue. Phones lit up, live streams resumed. Airplanes continued their flight paths like nothing had happened. Someone tweeted, "That alien thing was wild. Anyway, who's up for karaoke tonight?" And Earth rolled on. No statues were built. No leaders gave speeches. There was no victory parade. Just people, waking up late, burning toast, stepping in puddles and laughing about it anyway. Eli, no longer heiress, no longer architect, stood beside Jess at a farmer's market in Portland, holding a paper bag filled with fresh strawberries and a potted basil plant. He didn't shine anymore. He smiled. Sometimes he'd look up at the sky and whisper, "Thank you." Not to the architects, to Earth, for breaking him open, for teaching him how to cry and sing and make pasta at midnight just because. And far beyond the stars, in the deepest fold of the galaxy, something new was blooming. Not a war, not a collapse, but a rewrite. Planets once defined by logic now debated whether cereal was a soup. Ancient beings streamed cooking tutorials with too much garlic. Children in distant systems drew Earth flags without knowing what they meant, only that they felt right. One alien kid in Sector Theta 9 built a rocket out of juice boxes, said he was going to visit the planet that made the sky laugh. And Earth would be waiting. Not perfect, not ready, but alive. And this time, the galaxy would not try to fix it. It would try to understand it. Because in the end, Earth didn't collapse under war. It made the galaxy collapse with laughter, music, madness, and love. and it never stopped dancing. Even when the music wasn't playing,